What tender and juicy drama is going on at your school or workplace? Alright, so forgive my rant, but I am currently in bizarre world here at a new job, and it is surreal. After a 5-month stint of unemployment, I finally landed a job at a company that does water and fire damage restoration work. Yay for me, right? So I thought. I was hired to do collections, but at a lower wage than usual, but I accepted the job because of their bonus program that allows bonuses for making goals each month. I've been here only 3 weeks, and this is what has happened so far. During my first week here, the controller was literally walked out of the building by the president with all her stuff in a box. Wow, like WTH. Everyone was suspiciously silent about it for days. I just put my head down and did my job, but later found out that literally every single person in the office has been here less than a year, due to extreme turnover and mass firings by the president and his wife. In my department, the new quote-unquote supervisor is 22 years old. Okay. She's been here 8 weeks, has no degree, and seems as confused as I am. On my second week, the office manager was fired, didn't see it happen, but went down to talk to her about the payroll, and her entire office had been cleaned out. I saw the president's wife, who said it was something that had to be done. What is that code for? So now there is no one here who has any experience, an education beyond a high school degree. We currently have no one handling payroll, commissions, bonuses, AP, or AR. It is a bad situation. I figured that at least the president and or his wife would step in to assist in the gaps we now have, but nope. Neither of them have any knowledge of the QuickBooks system that is being used, don't know the passwords, what invoices are past due to vendors, etc. A new controller was hired this week who was supposed to be trained by the president's wife, but no. She called and said she was taking a vacation next week and asked me to train the new controller. What? I've only been here 3 weeks. I work in collections, I have no idea about your AP or AR or payroll, and I'm supposed to be powering out the collections to get a bonus for the end of this month, but we are being yanked out to put out fires every day. Finally, the phone will not stop ringing from vendors who haven't been paid in more than 3 to 4 months. The service techs can't use their company credit cards because the account is frozen due to non-payment, so they can't even get gas for their trucks. And the frosting on the cake? It's been raining for a full day and night, and we came in today to a building that is leaking in 4 major spots. Water is bulging through the ceiling tiles and causing the tiles to crack and burst through. So, the water damage restoration company I work for can't or won't even repair their own roof, and all day we've moved furniture and laid down plastic to protect our desks and files from being soaked. I have spent the entire week online pretending to work hard as I desperately try to find a new job. I am just sad and disappointed, and mostly, I'm scared. Yeah, welcome to the Water and Fire Damage Restoration Company, where they specialize in not fixing their own leaks. Story 2. So, to set the scene, I will fake name the characters at the outset. My boss is Megan, her husband is Daniel, and my colleague is Melissa. So this all started about 18 months ago. Me, Megan, Daniel, and Melissa all work in the same department. However, Daniel works in a different team because Megan can't be his boss. Anyway, we're all going for a team night out, curry, karaoke, blah, blah, blah. But Megan can't make it. So me, Daniel, and Melissa all go for the curry along with a couple of others. Come Monday morning, Megan calls me into a meeting, crying her eyes out because she's convinced Melissa and Daniel slept together on the night out. She's absolutely hysterical, so I agree to ask Melissa as we're pretty close. I ask Melissa, who also hysterically cries, telling me that Megan is using her power as her boss to push her out of the company and begs me to believe that she did not sleep with Dan. I trust her. I mean, we've known each other for a long time. Dan also promises me nothing happened. However, Meg and Dan's marriage suffered as a result of all the drama. Months go by, Megan becomes really strange, starts following Melissa to the bathroom, trying to listen to her recorded calls and access her emails. I tell her that she can't use her position like this, and we do this weekly routine where she cries, promises me she won't do it again, and she does it again the next week. Anyway, it gets to a point where Melissa can't cope and she resigns. Megan walks around all triumphantly. Dan seems to reconcile with his wife, and they start trying for a baby. Last night, Melissa posted a picture of an ultrasound, clearly stating that it is hers and Daniel's baby. Turns out they'd been sleeping together for 2 years, 6 months of which was prior to their wedding, and she'd lied to me the whole time. Megan is obviously devastated, walking around like a ghost of herself. Daniel thinks it's the funniest thing ever, now lives with Melissa and is expecting a child on his anniversary date with Megan, which also happens to be Meg's due date with Dan's child. Wait, what? I have no words besides that Megan's detective skills could rival Sherlock Holmes. I don't know, but maybe not in the most professional manner. Story 3. We have an employee named Carl. Carl is that guy. He was unpopular and unsuccessful growing up, never changed, and now he's in his 40s, so that's his lot in life. Carl graduated high school with the president of our company, who was a total golden boy. So you can imagine Carl's insecurity. Well, Carl got demoted a few years back and now does a job that's pretty entry level. He didn't get fired because Golden Boy felt sorry for him. At the time, our company was small, so Carl's job's title wasn't a big deal. Well, we've grown substantially, and there are now people in their mid to late 20s with the same job title as Carl, and they are way better at this job than Carl ever was. You can sense the insecurities growing. One of these people in their 20s is Greg, who's especially really good at his job and will be getting promoted to Carl's previous job title within the next few years. Greg is a good friend of mine, and I'm really happy for him that he's succeeding here. Carl, on the other hand, is not. Carl will constantly make digs at Greg that he passes off as jokes, but they come from a very salty place. A lot of it has to do with Carl tracking Greg's office attendance, which he has never been tasked with but has taken upon himself. You see, Greg works 7:30 to 3:30 instead of the typical 9 to 5 because, well, he wants to and the bosses don't mind. Carl works 7 to 6 because he'd rather be here than home with his miserable wife. So every time Greg leaves at 3:30, Carl makes some sideways comment along the lines of, "Oh, look at Greg skipping out early again." Recently, Carl has also been checking up on Greg. For example, if Greg has to go to a company worksite, Carl will text someone at that worksite checking that Greg got there. Obviously, the text recipient tells Greg this immediately, and Greg gets super upset, yet Carl will swear up and down that it's just a joke. Well, today, it all came to a head. Carl pulled his little texting maneuver, and when Greg came back to the office, he just lost it on Carl, telling Carl that his job isn't to track Greg's whereabouts, that he's sick of Carl's BS, just dressing this guy down. Carl was less than pleased, and they've been meeting with HR throughout the day. Stay tuned in for updates. Story 4. One of the managers in my office who was not straight sent Facebook messages to one of the people under him, a straight gent, asking him if he wanted to experiment. Upon being told no, that he was straight, the manager told him he would have fun and that he always wanted to play with a straight dude. The guy reported it to his direct manager, who had basically mentored the pestering manager and was furious about it. She said she would take things to HR, but the guy being pestered felt embarrassed and awkward and said he would be fine as long as he never did it again, and she talked to him. She took her protege into a room and tore into him. Now the male manager won't look at either of them in the eye, has notably lost confidence, and the female manager is basically bodyguarding all her male employees. Only those 3 people know, and me, because I happened to be there when the dude was super upset and needed someone to talk to. Respect for the manager is entirely gone. The pestered guy is leaving for another company for a number of reasons, but that's a huge one. Story 5. Last month we hired a new guy, kind of a sleaze, but we ignored it because he knows Python better than all of us, and we need a Python dude for some reason. Anyway, we have a high school student who runs our phones because it's a low-effort job that doesn't require messing around with the expensive stuff. It's mostly low-key because the only phone calls we get are from old people who don't know how to use a computer, and the occasional business who hasn't updated their tech since Windows XP and doesn't understand why their machines are so slow. Anyway, without getting into specifics, dude started hitting on the phone girl about a week ago, gave her his phone number and asked if she wanted to hang out at his place, alone, but he totally didn't mean anything like that. He said this before anyone even suggested it, although we were all thinking it. Last week, he accidentally grabbed her back. I've never seen my boss get mad, but dang, he laid that dude out with a solid hook to the face. Now there are cops, the girl is traumatized and will probably quit, not that I blame her. The dude tested positive for substances, and my boss tested positive for grass. Not surprising, he's the biggest user I've met since college. And so, since my boss also owns the business, someone is either getting a massive promotion, which none of us are even remotely qualified for, or I'm going to be out of a job soon, depending on how court goes, I guess. We haven't seen him since. IDK if he's in jail or what, to be honest. We're basically just going through the motions till we find something out. Fun times. Story 6. Pet store drama. Yep, there's this girl who is a complete, utter terrible human being. She's so fake and talks bad about everyone. She acts like everything is high school and she finally has a chance to be the popular kid. I won't go into detail about it because that's not the point, but everyone hated her. The only reason she was still employed? She was the boss. Anyways, she goes on being completely terrible, getting other dudes' numbers while she's dating the boss, going on dates, having intimacy with another coworker, all while dating the boss. She bragged about it to everyone because she didn't know everyone knew she was again dating the boss. Now, the boss was quite frankly a giant baby, or he liked being deceived, not really sure on that one. Through people complaining about her, customers complaining about her, he does absolutely nothing. But the terrible witch terrorizes everyone and gets away with it because she was invincible through her means, right? Wrong. Her potential borderline personality messes everything up. She went into the computer systems and was slowly stealing everyone's sales. She came in late to work every day by like 30 minutes, and she started lying to customers. There's only so much the boss could cover up for her at that point. As she was so close to getting caught and feeling the pressure, she got into a fight with the boss at his house, like breaking TVs and stuff, just in general losing her mind. He finally gets her out of his house. She gets in her car and destroys his lawn, running over bushes and flowers, using her tires to destroy the grass. Apparently, Boss Pansy dude loved his lawn. Now she's fired and all parties are pressing charges, and it's the perfect karma for the both of them. Story 7. I work with documents from a short wall cubicle. I get to my office at around 6 a.m. My boss shows up around 5:30 a.m. It's just us for the first few hours of the day. We prefer the lights off because we have windows producing natural light when the sun comes up. The lights in the office are too bright and bothersome, and every single day, this guy, we'll call him Ron, shows up and turns on all the lights in the office. Ron will even turn on the lights in rooms with no one in it. We've told him that we don't like the lights on in our area. It's bothersome. Ron flips out and says we have no authority over the lighting in this area and that OSHA is on his side. He then calls up the legal team and demands for an OSHA representative to be sent to check for the lighting levels in the office. Someone came out and said it's fine. Ron demands another test. This time they sent a team of people to check the light levels and to try to come up with a resolution. Because of this, a lot of testing has to be done in our light system, so now we have maintenance people running around turning the lights on and off to see what happens. And this has been going on for months. Everyone in the office is sick of the lights being messed with, but Ron keeps making a deal out of it. Recently, a couple people have sided with Ron that the lights should be at full power at all times throughout the day. So now there's a huge feud in the office between Team No Lights and Team Full Bright Get Stuff Blinding Lights. The teams are getting bigger, and it's to the point where some work isn't getting done because of the feud. Some people say, I can't work with the lights so bright, I'm going home. While others say, the lights aren't bright enough and I can't see without them, so I'm going home until OSHA fixes it. People are starting to play pranks on each other, such as buying lamps and flashlights for Team Bright Lights. This is a huge company, without naming my company, think Google or Microsoft sized, yet we're raging war based on a light switch. Story 8. I work for an attorney and did when I broke up with this guy. We'll call him K. It's now been 8 months since K broke up with me, in a text message no less, and he still hasn't returned my $800 worth of camera equipment that was at his place. I'd known K for quite a long time before I dated him and believed him to be a decent guy, so I just never pushed the issue of getting it back. Every couple of months, he would resurface and apologize for not returning my stuff yet. My boss, the attorney, knows about this and doesn't understand why I didn't press the issue more. Yesterday, Kay randomly resurfaces again via text while I'm at work. I am standoffish and tell him that I want my stuff back. Kay says I have to commit to some stuff to get it back. I work out of my boss's home and conveniently her husband was home, who also knew the situation. And I told him what just happened and asked if he would talk to Kay for me. Husband speaks to Kay on the phone for approximately 10 minutes. I did not stay to listen to the conversation, but apparently he told Kay to have my stuff in a box at my house by 4, or he would accompany me to the police station to file a complaint. My boss, the attorney, says that she wants to file a replevin motion and file a complaint. Wow, yesterday was one roller coaster of a day. I texted Kay at 4:30 yesterday after I informed my roommate of the situation. Kay is generally a non-confrontational person, but people do weird things when they're upset. Kay also had a key to my place, so I ended up calling a locksmith to get the locks changed since it's entirely possible that he could have made a copy of my key. Not that I think he would, but, better safe than sorry. I didn't get a response from Kay, so I texted again at 6:30 asking where my stuff was, and he said that he would drop it off after work the next day. I asked him why he couldn't have dropped it off that day when he said he would, especially since he was off work all day and had plenty of time to do it. I called a friend, E, to see if he would go with me to pick up my stuff so I wouldn't go alone. E agreed to go with me amid threats to K for being a schmuck about the whole thing. I told K that I would be coming by later that night to pick up my stuff and to have it ready. K whined that it was getting late, 7 p.m., and he had to work in the morning. I told him that wasn't my problem when he had an entire afternoon plus the previous 8 months to just return my stuff, and that I would let him know when I was on my way. E finally makes it to my place around 8:30 and we head over to K's place. E again talks about hurting K and I thank him but tell him not to do that because I only want to have to call the police if K won't give me back my stuff. We get there and my stuff is sitting outside on the steps. I leave my car running and go check to be sure all my stuff is there before returning to the car. K is not and does not come outside. After we leave, I get a message from K asking why I didn't leave anything for him. At the time, I didn't believe there was anything of his at my place. K complains that I still have red light bulbs at my place that he brought over, his choice, I never asked for them, and that he wanted them back. Frickin' light bulbs. I waited patiently for him to return my $800 worth of camera equipment after he broke up with me for his ex, and now he's whining about some cheap light bulbs? I tell him I'll mail them to him and ask if he left anything else at my place. He pretends to send me several awful text messages. He then asks why I'm so mad at him and that he still has one of my lens caps. I respond with the following message. Because you said I would have to commit to doing something to get my stuff back, now if there's anything else of yours that you think is here, let me know and I will send it to you. Otherwise, I will not be responding to any more of your texts. Keep the lens cap or throw it away. I don't care. This is followed by several messages, eventually devolving to the following messages when I wouldn't respond. Forever is forever, and I don't want to never talk to you again. You are important to me. Okay, that's cool. Obviously, you have so many friends. I then sent a text message saying that he had until Friday to tell me what he thinks he left at my house and I would mail it to him. After that, I will only send him anything I happen to find, if anything. I've not received any other messages from K since. After Friday, I will be blocking his number on my phone, and I have already blocked him on everything else, every other app we have used to communicate, Facebook, Messenger, Google Hangouts, etc. In the end, I did get my stuff back, apparently minus a lens cap, which I believe is just a ploy to have a reason to contact me further or an excuse to show up at my place. Story 9. Well, I was recently promoted within the company I work for, and I am now my ex-boyfriend's supervisor. Let's call him Chris. Chris and I dated 18 years ago for 2 years, broke up, and remained friends. Chris actually introduced me to my husband, Jim, who also works at the company with us. Chris's long-term girlfriend and baby mama, Jean, just left him because he got loaded and mistreated her one night. Sadly, this was a regular occurrence, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Jean and I are very, very good friends. She didn't have enough money to get out of Chris's house, so I loaned her $1,200 to help her get her own place with her 2 kids. Chris has no idea that I, his friend of 20 years, helped his girlfriend escape him. Also, since I'm now his supervisor, I see everything he does at work all day. He does all sorts of stupid nonsense. He's been drafting a please come back email to Jean for the past 3 days. She and I chat online regularly, sometimes while he's online begging for her to come back. He has no idea about that either. Story 10. Ooh, I'm here for this. The most relevant piece of drama right now is my sous chef just put his 2 weeks notice in after being shafted by our executive chef for about the last 6 months. The final straw was over the weekend and we did a big fundraising event for the California wildfires. He and our banquet sous chef were running a station together, stressing out over this event. Executive chef, who was essentially just walking around schmoozing with the crowds at this point, asked why he was so stressed out. His response was, You stress us all out. And he put his notice in the next day. I've witnessed several meetings with him and our other sous executive chef since. Unfortunately, he's an incredibly hard worker who puts his whole self into the management of staff and kitchen. I'm wondering if he's actually going to go through with it or if it's an elaborate tantrum to get what he wants from our chef. The other piece of drama is one of our in-room dining server girls I've nicknamed HBC, hot but crazy, just got knocked up by a line cook. This line cook was the biggest schmuck in the kitchen with a horrible attitude and he recently quit to go work elsewhere. What's sad is he's already a problematic dad to 1 kid. These 2 have no business reproducing, but as HBC has already admitted to me, She's already had one termination and doesn't think she can go through it again. But according to her, line cook is stoked to be a daddy, as in stoked to pay child support for another kid. And if you're enjoying the video so far and stoked about it, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 11. They found a girl in the river, and once they ID'd her, it turns out she went missing like 5 years ago. However, the pathologist says she only passed away recently and had signs of being shackled on her wrists and ankles. Then this other girl who's depressed and has been hurting herself got hit by a car, which was seen on CCTV, but was picked up off the road by the driver and has not been seen since. So the police think that this guy is the same person that took the previous girl and possibly some other missing females in the last 10 years. So now the police are searching for this guy in the cellar or basement that they believe he's keeping her in. Meanwhile, the policewoman in charge of the case is dealing with her strained relationship with her ailing father and jealous siblings, and her partner is contemplating cheating on his pregnant wife. And we've still got a few episodes to film though, so I'm not sure how it'll all turn out. Story 12. This is old, but it was a super juicy and gross affair. This was back at my first job. My boss was the epitome of an upstanding Christian dad and husband. He and his wife, who also worked at the agency, had been married 20 plus years, were in their late 40s, and had several kids, including one adopted internationally. They spent time volunteering in their child's home country, had their church do fundraisers for various causes there, etc. I always got kind of an icky vibe from him when we had one-on-one meetings, but he never said or did anything inappropriate, so I chalked it up to my social awkwardness. He struck me as a but I had no real reason to think so. So we hired a new person who was probably about 25. She was married and had a toddler. She seemed really happy in her marriage and was a totally nice, normal person. Her husband came by once with their kid and it was really sweet. You've guessed by now, I'm sure, that the boss and his young employee ended up having an affair. To this day, I still don't get it. To me, there was nothing remotely sexy or appealing about my boss. He was just an average-ish dude who turned out to be a slimy dude. He wasn't attractive, he didn't make a lot of money, he had a boring personality. The really crazy part is that many years later, I was talking to a coworker at a totally different workplace. Through our small talk, we came to learn that I'd work at the same agency as his ex-wife. He told me her name and then just watched the look of recognition go over my face. I then, thinking I was being nice, told him that I never liked our boss and that he always seemed like a total creep to me. Well, it turns out my boss and the coworker had gotten married and were still together. I was basically telling this guy how disgusting his kid's stepdad was. Oops. The biggest lesson I learned from this was to always pay attention to my gut feelings and also to keep my mouth shut a little bit more. Yep, learning to keep certain thoughts to yourself can save you from some awkward moments. Story 13. At my sixth form, we had a guy who went here last year and was a huge creep. He was extremely loud and touchy-feely, but all in all, he was a pretty funny dude. However, he was a cross-dresser, and in his spare time, he would go on Facebook or Snapchat and pretty much attempt to hook up with any and every dude who went to the school. Seriously, he did it to me, he did it to my brother, he did it to every guy in our psychology group, and even did it to students on entirely different courses. He would often send unsolicited pictures to guys and would basically pester them online until he was blocked, then he'd move on to another person. Now, several students have come forward saying that they reported him to the college, but the college did nothing to confront him or anything. The reason? They didn't want to smear their public image by kicking a student out of their school. Now there's this huge debate going on whether it was mistreatment and whether he should have gotten special treatment just because, etc., etc. It's a mess. It doesn't really matter though. He completely flunked his first year and failed all of his subjects, so he was kicked out anyway after we got our exam results in August. But all of this stuff is now only coming to light for some reason. It's odd. Story 14. This did not happen in my college, but I still feel angry whenever I think about this incident. I became an academic schmuck during my college years. There were so many exams that I would attend and wouldn't write stuff. My mind would be wandering off in Dota land. I would just sit for half an hour and then just walk away, probably going to a gaming lounge. But if I could figure the answer out for something using prior school knowledge, I would do my best to write that one. So I was doing the same thing at this one college that was selected as my exam center. I saw the question paper and I saw one or two questions that I could answer, but I came unequipped. So I asked a girl beside me for a calculator. The invigilator saw me and warned me that I should never ask anything again. So I am like, screw that. I wasn't going to pass with those two questions anyway. But for some reason, my daydreaming about Dota offended the invigilator. She took my paper and wasn't letting me leave the college either. I got really angry, and at this point, it became a matter of principle. We both argued for like 20 minutes straight, after which she told me if I have a problem, I'd take it to her senior. I decay his exact title, but let's call him the head of exams. So I go to the head of exams and explain my problem. He comes with me to the classroom to find out her side of the story. Her story made my jaw drop in disbelief. She told me I was continuously staring at her and was creeping her while my gaze wasn't even at her, even if I was daydreaming. My eyes were on my paper all along. In a conservative country like India, staring is a huge deal, almost as bad as contact, and I was bewildered. Luckily, the manager looked like he understood. The way he looked at her and talked to me felt like, not this lady and her BS again. He reprimanded me for making the calculator mistake because it was a mistake at the end of the day, gave me back my paper, and left the room. Luckily, I came out more popular among people after the incident for standing up to her, even if getting back my paper didn't do anything to my grade. Story 15. Not in my particular institution, but in my district, a student decided to draw inappropriate stuff all over one of his teacher's desks before the beginning of class last week. This is presumably not the first time that this has happened, as teenagers tend to draw nasty stuff on everything anyway, right? The teacher in question told said student that if they were going to persist on drawing stuff everywhere, to at least make them anatomically accurate. She then proceeded to demonstrate how to draw an anatomically correct one for the whole class up on her digital whiteboard. A student posted it on Snapchat and it was forwarded to administration. The teacher was offered the choice of being fired or resigning. She resigned. And we all thought that was the end of it, but students are now protesting in her name. I'm honestly proud of them, but wish they would stop drawing stuff on everything. Story 16. My bosses are married. The husband hates the wife's daughter from her previous marriage. Daughter has still been living with them even though she's 28 and doesn't pay any bills and only works part-time. Husband has been gunning for her to move out, finally got his way. She's moving up to live with her aunt who's really sick. Left last week, right before the daughter and mom left to make the trip up there. My boss, the wife, found out she has cancer. Cue a big crying announcement. Everyone is sad for her. She found out last year she had colon cancer, had surgery, and everything had ended up being fine. They caught it early. My boss ended up posting a long post on the business Facebook page about all of her struggles and that she's not currently around for that reason. People are now coming in asking if we're going to be closing down. My other coworker has an awful boyfriend that she's been seeing for a few months. He cheated on her. She got mad and lost her mind. Almost got arrested because she got violent. She took this schmuck back after saying she wouldn't. He's controlling and manipulative. No one else can stand him. She already had a drinking problem before this guy came into the picture, and her last boyfriend legitimately tried to end her last year. She was out of work for almost a month. She's now claiming she would rather go through that again, rather deal with this guy cheating on her again. She's back to drinking like before, during and after work. My bail boss knows all about it, but isn't doing anything. He's got a soft spot for her and lets her get away with anything she wants. Even when they came out earlier in the year, they might have been having an affair. I don't know. I have a bunch more stories. This place is a terrible fest. Story 17. The company I work for is large enough that we hire a third-party company to handle our cafeteria. All of the napkin holders in our cafeteria had gradually been disappearing over the last few months. It got to a point where there was only like 2 or 3 table group. Each table group holds around 20 people. The only other place to get them was by the plasticware and condiment area. Then around 1 week ago, each table group had 2 to 3 napkin holders again. We still have no idea what happened. The tinfoil assumption is that someone is stealing them and selling them in our company black market, along with the good conference room chairs, whiteboard pens, erasers, batteries, etc. to supplement their income. The educated assumption is the third-party company was trying to reduce the consumption, use of napkins, by making them more sparse. In reality, we believed it caused an increase in consumption use because people will grab 4 to 5 in case someone they sit with didn't grab any. Unused items are left on the table or thrown away for anyone else that sits at that table later, but no one wants to use left-behind napkins, so they get more and just waste more. Story 18. At work, some girl came up to me from outside claiming she had been spiked next door, as if someone had just been putting something in her drink. I waited for a while with her as she called the cops to come get her. She was acting very erratic and all over the place, so I thought it was possible. She kept telling me that she felt like fleeing because she was unsafe and people were going to get her, and that she wanted me to go to the end of the block with her. I go back inside while my boss handles the situation, tries to calm her down, and tries to figure everything out. My boss goes next door asking the gym what happened that night, and apparently the girl and her BF were in and out of the washroom all night. The girl tells my boss that she needs to go to the end of the street. My boss refuses and tries to use logic. You know what happens when you use logic? A weapon gets pulled out on you. So the girl took out a Swiss knife, saying that if my boss didn't come with her to the end of the block, my boss would be held accountable. Accountable for what? The cops finally come and question her. After a bunch of questioning, she was still not cooperating. My boss tells the cops that she has a weapon, good information to know, as the ambulance pulls up. So she is still not cooperating, and guess what? They try to handcuff her, and she starts screaming. She's wiggling around for a bit, still won't cooperate, so they gently throw her on the ground to finally handcuff her. All the while, she's yelling and kicking, also yelling out people's names. They throw her into the ambulance, then strap her down into the gurney and put her under observation for like 72 hours. Story 19. I got a good one. Okay, so I'm in fashion school. Our last semester of fashion school is spent preparing for the graduating class's final fashion show. Students have to prepare 10 garments, which will be graded, walk down the runway, and could possibly place in the top 3. About 2 weeks ago, some crazy witch crept into an open classroom during the day, hid until the teacher locked the door, and then slept in the classroom until she was sure the campus was cleared. She then woke up, broke into a locked office, and stole her classmates' and competitors' garments. The teacher showed up the next day and found the garments missing. The students affected went crazy. This is weeks of work and serious money invested. Not to mention the fashion show is in mere weeks. And then she walks in, wearing one of her classmates' competition garments, as if he wouldn't know every goddamn stitch in that dress. They call the cops, she was arrested, and is an international student, so who knows what happens now. But the garments still haven't been found. Our teachers say to stay tuned because they may need the entire program to volunteer their time to remake these garments in time for the show. Story 20. This girl responded to some email about the tennis club asking if she should bring her own racket or if it would be provided by the school. However, as it was addressed to the whole school when she replied to all students, and it's quite a large school, 1,700 odd, I'd say. This other girl makes fun of it, and the original girl fights back. Soon everyone and their grandmother is sending emails on this email chain. The only teacher who can see it is the original PE teacher, and she advises people to stop spamming, but no one does. People sent nasty stuff, their Instagram and Snapchats, someone lighting fireworks in their face, all kinds of really quite nasty stuff. Worst of all, my phone was pinging at every email. People start getting annoyed and say, "Can you stop this?" etc., etc. Then an email comes out from the principal and it says, I'm paraphrasing, it was a proper formal email, "Please stop this or I shall have to ask the PE teacher to report all of you." I personally believed it was the real principal, and it seemed everyone did too. The email stopped. However, my friend, and obviously some others, noticed it was a Yahoo email and not the school's domain. Some other clues were there, not capital letters where there should have been, etc. Whoever did that stopped everyone talking until the next day, and the real principal didn't do anything but say he was disappointed, but at least a random fake email person stopped them. Story 21. My company recently moved offices. Our new office building is just around the corner from the old one. So because the new building doesn't have parking and we still are renting the office space at the old building, everyone just parks there. The old office building has 5 to 10 different businesses, but it is close to the university, which has a significant lack of available parking, so a lot of students illegally use a small parking lot. Since we moved offices, some other tenants in the building have taken it upon themselves to police the parking lot for cars that shouldn't be parked there, despite them not being associated with the management of the building or parking lot. It started with them leaving notes on the windshields of coworkers' cars asking which office we worked in, then progressed to stopping my coworkers and interrogating them as they were getting in and out of their cars. One time, the lady chased my coworker down the block, threatening to tow the car. We have contacted the management of the building, who has assured us that all of our cars are registered with the building and will not be towed. But the real surprise today was when a new coworker got a note that said they had been recorded parking there for 4 weeks and to register the car with management. It said that this was a second notice. The note was signed, "The Management." The kicker is that the actual management of the building didn't put the note on the car. It's still the crazy tenant who apparently has nothing better to do than police a parking lot. Story 22. Well, it's not going on now, but it was October of 3 years ago, so the anniversary of the most awkward I have ever felt. I'll start out by saying I work at a large furniture store that only has 10 employees. I know, we are way understaffed. I started working here in 2012 and was really good friends with a lady I'll call Elle. Elle was in her mid-40s, married with 3 kids. The oldest was 19. Other key staff members for this fiasco were G, the floor manager, and S, who was basically our muscle for moving stuff around and helping load stuff. L and S worked together quite closely for about a year because her job was to tell him where to put the new stuff that came in and make sure everything was tagged. In October 2014, on S's 20th birthday, I went out to the back dock to throw some boxes away and stumble across S and L in a heated embrace that they immediately break apart from. Me, being awkward and caught completely off guard, threw out a lame, what you guys doing? She says, nothing, though is very red in the face and rushes inside. I was stunned. I decided to think it over before saying anything to anyone. An hour later, L comes to me and asks me not to say anything. She says it was a one-time thing, it was just a joke, and I walked outside at exactly the wrong time. I agreed to not say anything, though I am now in guard to see if it was a one-time thing or not. A week later is my husband and I's annual Halloween party, which all of my coworkers were invited to. They ended up showing up together, L claiming that S is her DD. She sits by him the entire night and constantly touches his arm or shoulder. And after everyone else but one of my husband's friends is gone, she gives him a shot of Fireball. Keep in mind, he is under 21 and supposed to be the DD. They finally leave shortly after that, and it's just my husband, his friend, and I. The friend asks if she was his mom. I have to tell him everything, which my husband knew from the day I saw them. On Monday, I went to G, my boss, and also a close friend. I don't want to break my promise completely to L, but I need to see if anyone else has noticed anything. So I just asked if she thought L and S showing up to my party together was weird. G says, OMG, I've been waiting for you to notice. Get in my office so I can tell you. I wasn't allowed to bring it up until you said something. Apparently, this had been going on for like months. G and HR lady had both caught them hugging inappropriately, and the FedEx delivery driver had caught them kissing in the same place I had. Because of them showing up together to my party, they finally had enough evidence and witnesses to take disciplinary action. They were called into a meeting with the general manager and G that Friday were told that if they were caught within 10 feet of each other again, while on the clock, they would be fired immediately. They were so embarrassed they both called to quit Monday morning before the workday even started. I thought that was the end of it, but one of our rare male customers came in about a month after they quit and asked where Al was. When he told him she no longer worked here, he let out a sigh of relief and said he wondered how long it would take us to catch on. We asked him what he meant, and he said he had caught them having intimacy in the men's room several months before. So apparently this had been going on for at least 5 months before I noticed. S had gone to school with her oldest daughter, and yes, they knew each other, and was good friends with G's oldest son, which is how he got the job with us in the first place. From what I have seen on Facebook, they broke up and he has a cute girlfriend his own age. Elle, on the other hand, ended up getting divorced and her kids won't speak to her. She works for the apartment complex she now lives in. And if you can relate to any of these stories, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.